Since we are right at the cusp of celebrating the 250th anniversary of the founding of this nation, I want to remind us of what we come from. In 1852, when Frederick Douglass gets asked to deliver, of course, his famous oratory, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July."
Yeah.
Now, this is 1852. Of course, Frederick Douglass is a fugitive from slavery. He is on the run, and yet he is out, right, fighting the abolitionist cause in public and advertising where he's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Bold, because I don't even do that on Instagram stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. He refuses to give the speech on the 4th of July because he is offended. Like, how dare you ask me to come talk about your independence when 4 million of my people are in the worst bondage in the history of the world? So he gives a speech. What to the slave is the 4th of July. And 13 years later, slavery will fall. Now, there would be no reason, no historical reason, no logical reason to believe in 1852 that slavery could fall in 13 years. We were almost at the height of slavery in the United States, and yet it did. And he had to believe, and all of the abolitionists who fought had to believe that it could happen. Yeah. Black folks have been asking for reparations for almost as long as slavery existed. Most of us never got them, but that doesn't mean that we never will. Since we are right at the cusp of celebrating,
was built on violence and subjugation and chicanery and confidence men and shenanigans and corruption. But it is also this amazing expression of human possibility. It is Thomas Jefferson. Yes, he had slaves, and not but, and
yeah,
he penned some of the most important words that were ever written in the annals of humanity. And being able to maintain those two ideas at the same time is what both can inspire you to keep going and make the world and the country better and not sink in despair, but also to understand the challenges and the persistence that will be required to overcome those challenges if you want to get to where we want to go.
American State Fair become so political? Well, it has to do with who's putting this on. This is part of Freedom 250, and that is not what was originally supposed to be here, which was put on by America 250. Those are two organizations, two totally different things. Let me break them down.
So America 250 is a nonpartisan group that was established by an act of Congress in 2016 with the goal of hosting events throughout the country to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation. It's made of lawmakers from both sides of the aisle and private citizens. On the other hand, Freedom 250 is a task force that was created through an executive order by President Trump, making him the chair of the organization. And this is where things get politicized. A number of the America 250 events were replaced with Freedom 250 events. A good example is the series of concerts that were supposed to happen on the National Mall, hosted by the Smithsonian Institute and America 250. Those were canceled and replaced with Freedom 250's Great American State Fair. Now, you've already heard about the crowd sizes, but what about having no shortage of Trump admiration throughout the fair? There's photos, posters, magazines, a replica of his arch, and videos of him. Now, this video was inside the Freedom Truck, which is put on by PragerU. That's the controversial conservative organization that uses politicized narratives and historical inaccuracies to promote a Christian national ideology. And these trucks will be touring the country under the Freedom 250 initiative. Of course, there's the state pavilions, some more decorated than others, but overall felt like a pop-up experience that you would find with really good Instagram photo ops.
Americans are credited for creating a number of things that we use in our everyday life: the credit card, the ATM, the escalator, the elevator, the assembly line, there's a lot. It is so hot that I cannot think straight right now. But let's see if any of that is mentioned inside the America Innovates Pavilion.
Inside were companies like SpaceX, motorcycles, TikTok, and NASA. And while I was walking around, I heard a lot of God bless yous, and I thought, wow, allergies must be really bad today. And then I realized it was the Faith and Religious Day. There were a number of churches that were doing performances. The Museum of the Bible, Christian universities, and Christian organizations were all in a pavilion. I saw the faith director of the Department of Homeland Security, and she handed me this paper. You can pause to read it. And she also said that it looks like no one is at the state fair because it's so hot there inside the pavilions. Now, this is easy to fact check. So I visited a number of the pavilions. There was only one that had a line, which was Florida. And there was also an entire wing of pavilions whose air conditioning was not working.
It is nearing 100 degrees right now, and I am a sweaty mess. It is so hot that the vinyl on these pavilions is actually warping.
It feels like a metaphor for the meaning of the Gilded Age, where it looks really nice on the surface, but underneath, not so much. Now, the Great American State Fair goes on through July 10th.
Why has
My wife is here, Sister Khadija Farrakhan. Mother Khadija, would you stand, please? Now, wait a minute. Could you sit and let her stand? Because I want them to see her, you know. Now, you know, we've been married 58 years. Wow. And she has blessed me with 9 children. And this one here by himself. He's given me how many grandchildren, son? 25. And I got 8 more making babies. This Farrakhan guy, he ain't going nowhere, brother. He gonna be around a while. But I wanted my wife to stand because I want to say this about leadership. Let me tell you something, brothers. If you're gonna lead, you really need a good woman by your side. And I can tell you that I would not be who I am or what I am if God didn't bless me with who she is and what she has done to complement me and to help make me. You say, what, Farrakhan? Yeah. A woman properly taught and trained will help a man to be a man. And in the class that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad set up that trains women, my wife was in that class, but even before she got in that class, she and I were like, well, put it, soulmates. We were just children, and I asked her, you know, she asked me, how many children would you like? I said 3. And I asked her, how many children would you like? She said 6. So we cooperated. Yeah. And I'm saying this to young men in leadership, young women in leadership. Leadership is sacred, and the wife that you choose, she has to be a woman that has a mind similar to yours and is willing to sacrifice to help you become who you want to be. Elijah Muhammad told my wife, she asked him, how can I help my husband? And he said to her, go out and make friends for him wherever you are. There is no city that I have lived in where my wife did not go out in that community and make friends for her husband. In Boston, she did it. In New York, she did it. In Chicago, she did it. And right now, I live most of my time on a farm in Michigan. I'm becoming Farmer Lewis. And tomorrow, God willing, I want to talk to us about farming, about agriculture, about becoming agronomists, about the value of earth. You have to know this, otherwise we'll never be free. And I live out there with lots and lots of white folk on the farm. But guess what? They made friends for me. Do you know every Christmas? What? I didn't say I lit no Christmas tree. Every Christmas, we give gifts to all our neighbors. And I'm telling you, they are so shocked. Farrakhan, the hater, bringing gifts. This is the truth. Every neighbor, we grow beans on our farmland. Each of my neighbors would get 50 pounds of beans. Or we present them with apples from an orchard, and we make a heck of a bouquet. A basket. Well, it's a bouquet, you know, because they got all that stuff in it, you know. They can't believe it. And every time we have some construction done, most of the brothers do it, but if we have to use the Caucasian, we pay our bills. Do you know that Farrakhan, from 1972 to today, has never written a bad check in my life? Not one. You know what leadership is? Having a word and striving to make your word your bond. That's how you build trust and confidence in others for you. My wife is here.
Peace and love, and welcome to Black Press USA's morning show, where we bring you the headlines in the culture. And of course, we're celebrating 250 years of America through the lens of Black Americans. And of course, that was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who's actually burying his wife today. Services are being held for Mother Khadijah Farrakhan today as we speak. She was lying in state Thursday and Wednesday. And so the Farrakhan family will be saying their final farewells to her. So we're definitely sending all our prayers and energies to our Muslim brothers and sisters this morning as they bury the mother of the movement. When you think of that. And so, you know, just peace, blessings. And even that story Farrakhan was telling and how diligently she stood there the whole time. He told her to stand up and she never sat down. She was waiting for him to tell him, "So you can sit down now." You know what I'm saying? But, you know, talking about Jill, that relationship and him talking about who knew that Farrakhan had, you know, was loving and giving his Caucasian neighbors gift baskets and doing business with him. So I think the picture that of the boogeyman that this nation has painted when it comes to the Farrakhan, that conversation right there just demythed all of that.
It was a powerful one. Obviously, he was sharing the blessings that he received. He who finds a wife finds a good thing, so the saying goes. And it is beautiful to see someone openly express how their wife or their significant other has made a difference in their life, both not just by what, she does for him, but what she does for him outside of the home. So I think that is an important lesson that he shared.
Yeah, and a silent force behind his ministry. And that is a part of the experience of America. Our Muslim brothers and sisters, the Nation of Islam, the Final Call newspaper, which is a member of Black Press USA, that is part of the fabric of America. Whether they like it or not. But speaking of the fabric of America, it's here. 250 years tomorrow is the big celebration. We know that one of the videos we saw is how the Trump administration hijacked the nonpartisan movement of the celebration of 250 years, which was started by Congress years ago in preparation for this day. And of course, the Trump administration hijacked it. And you have that fair that has air conditioning half of the time because of the lack of electricity, food rotting, a part-time Ferris wheel, a concert with no participants. And the list goes on and on about that catastrophe of a celebration that's happening right now in Washington, D.C.
I mean, it's tacky. It's thrown together. It's no surprise that has been a hallmark of the events put together by this administration. So this will not be an exception to that. It's hastily done, not much thought put into it. And I can't believe the people that are attending feel as though this is a good representative for 250 years of America, for their efforts, for all of our high taxes. It's just a mess, but
and money wasted
Yeah.
for sure. Greer.
I wanted to throw something in there real quick. We kind of glossed over. While I love many things that the Farrakhan represents, struggle a little bit with the framing of how women are had to be trained. But I do understand if you are within that environment, right? Like how that works. But that's not really my point. A point was what Farrakhan means to Black America, right? Things that happened to his wife passing is a huge moment that I think has kind of been somewhat understated. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, 100%. That's why we put it in the show, because just like the Black experience with 250 years, I mean, if we don't talk about it, who will, right?
Exactly. And so, I think it's, and Jeremiah Wright had not went down what went down, he would have absolutely represented that in the same way, right? In terms of like kind of being the opposite, but not the opposite of Farrakhan, and just in terms of his messaging, but that family is, that family means a lot to Black America, regardless of what your religious persuasion. We usually we don't play. There's a lot of brothers who left Vlad, right? Because of the minister. If you don't, so I say that.
Right, 100%. Yeah, if we don't talk about it, who will? And that's why we're definitely sending the Farrakhan family lots of peace, love that surpasses all understanding. And that's kind of what you need during, when you experience death. That scripture that says the peace that surpasses all understanding. Because a lot of times you don't know how you can get through death. But somehow God gives you the love you need, the peace you need, that goes beyond anything. And you look up and it's 3 weeks later and, you're survived,
Yeah.
So definitely the Farrakhans are, and that's what we're talking about, 250 years of America. And the other video that we saw from President Obama, who continues to have us grapple with this to America, with our founding fathers, how they could be slave owners, but writing the Declaration of Independence and the framing for us to be able to fight for the liberties that are in that declaration, how, you know, the founding fathers could be slave owners, but also pin that. And him saying America was built on violence, but it was also written on human possibilities by the same men, which is, you know, interesting. And we talked about this yesterday, Jill, how we look at Congress and, you know, their age limits, but the founding fathers that wrote the Declaration, Thomas Jefferson was only 33 years old. Alexander Hamilton, 21. Okay, 21, one of the founding fathers. George Washington, 44. So this was a group of young white men, not Mitch McConnell, you know what I mean? Not that age, but these were young men that couldn't even run a committee right now in Congress because they're too young.
You know, it's a complicated history. As with most things, there's a dichotomy to it. As you mentioned, I think that, you know, obviously 250 years later, the country is still grappling with some of the very same things it was when they initially started. I think that there needs to be an age mix, though, because as much as we need to see the possibilities of the future and build and ensure that the youth are involved, we also have an aging population with very specific needs and issues that needs to be addressed too. So a blending of the two seems to be the most logical situation, but, you know, much like with everything in this country, two sides can't seem to come to terms on, you know, the best approach, who's the best person for it, and when to, I was going to say consolidate. That's not the word I'm looking for. When to concede, you know, to share, to recognize that everyone is going to have to give up a little bit of something for everyone to be comfortable.
Right. I think, you know, like the intergenerational approach of not looking so much at age, but looking at, you know, common sense and qualifications. And I think that we're seeing that when we look at the midterms and even what happened in Denver this week with that 29-year-old young lady who beat a 15-year incumbent. And she's set to be the youngest, the first Gen Zer to go to Congress if she should win. So it looks like it's happening whether they like it or not. And then finally, we started with Nicole Hannah-Jones, who is the author of the 1619 Project, which shook white folks so bad that they wanted to dismantle the Department of Education. I just think people don't realize how intricate that 1619 Project played a role in school boards being taken over, book bans. All of those things derive because that 1619 Project was also to be a curriculum through schools across the country. And that's where that term critical race theory came from, because she shook them and she scared them. And so to hear her talk about 250 years, I think she's one of the most important voices that we should be listening to this weekend. And her touching on in 1852, Frederick Douglass was a fugitive when he was asked to give what to the slave is the 4th of July. And that's something we see every year on social media around this time. And so this speech right here is, you know, iconic and one of the most important pieces of our material, just like the Declaration of Independence, if you think about it.
I mean, that's what these moments are for, to reflect back and to understand, just like we're saying, we're divided now. We were obviously divided then, and we can't, the struggle for equality is something I feel as though over the last 20 years, maybe we weren't taking it seriously. We still were having the conversations, but we didn't think that it would ever be possible to see those rights that we clawed and fight for being taken away. And so I think that in all we do, it is important to recognize the sacrifices made before and to understand that more will need to be made going forward.
Right. And I think that it's important to note that after that speech, it wasn't until 13 years later that, slavery was ended. And to her point, bringing it back to reparations, it's like, it might seem like it's not going to happen, but if you don't persist, it'll never happen. So you got to keep moving forward. And so we're talking about 250 years. And I thought what would be fun is to incorporate some hip hop, because hip hop turned 50 a couple years ago. And so hip hop is a part of this celebration. And so it looks like 50 Cent is in. According to the Daily Beast. Now, the rapper is expected to take stage at the executive branch as part of America's 250th anniversary this weekend. Now, what's interesting about this is a high ticket event by Donald Trump Jr. And what's interesting is they also had on this ticket Busta Rhymes and Ja Rule. And when I saw Ja Rule's name, a red flag went up, because I know white folks are oblivious to what's happening in the culture, but I don't think that 50 Cent or Ja Rule would agree to be on the same ticket. So I'm not too sure this is a real thing. What do you think, Jill?
Well, on one hand, Busta Rhymes, Snoop, I think maybe Nelly have all performed at this club before. So maybe somebody was booked without someone else knowing. Again, to your point, I doubt that they have an understanding of the history and the beef. It does seem interesting, as 50 had made it a point to say he stays out of politics, right? But he does have his conversation and things that he will drop in there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see 50 showing up and performing. I think that, there's some quiet things about some of our artists that we either have to accept with them or just keep it moving and turn a blind eye to their true feelings.
Right. Yeah, I'm not surprised that 50 Cent was booked. I'm just surprised that 50 Cent and Ja Rule agreed to be on a ticket with each other. Now, I know that they both can perform and then leave the building, which is probably what's going to happen. But I just find that that tickles me that they have all this beef and they wouldn't do it for Live Nation, but they'll do it for the Trumps.
The bag is probably heavy.
That's just interesting to me.
It's problematic. Okay. These artists are popping up. I sent you yesterday that shot of Lil Wayne with Rittenhouse. We this is a bridge too far. Okay. And that we've become so comfortable in allowing some of let people do what they want to do. But it says right now to me that there is a huge divide. That, when hip hop, we felt like we was a part of it. Right. We felt like we was on the same level at one time, because you would never see anything like this. You would never see a Lil Wayne, a real G. You would not see him sitting, chilling with Rittenhouse. And you would not see, Chuck D performing at the White House. And so I'm sorry. This is like, it's just hurtful. It honestly, it's just hurtful to see this is where it's like we've gotten comfortable. Tupac would not do this. I'm sorry. I don't believe he would.
But Eazy-E did.
Yeah, but come on. We're not talking about the same, you know what I mean? Eazy-E did a lot of things for money.
But that's sort of my point. I don't think that this behavior from hip hop or artists is necessarily new. We're just at a crucial time. But I feel as though some of our faves, not Tupac, I don't believe that about Pac either, but some of our faves have always straddled the line. We just have more transparency now.
Mhm.
I guess you're right. That makes perfect sense, but it's like, I mean, I want to still watch Power and Canaan. Brother, making it hard. I'm just
Yes,
saying,
I'm
it's just,
support the other Black people that are in that cast that I know have worked hard. Shout out to London Brown,
yeah,
EL. I know you know him well. Makai Curtis, all of the people in the cast, but 50 gone 50.
Right. And I saw that when all those conversations came out this week, he was on a boat talking about people are idiots. And so I'm like, but he didn't deny or confirm. So we'll see. It's going to be told. I think the concert is supposed to be tonight. So we'll see if he performs, because I'm sure Donald Trump's granddaughter, who is becoming a socialite on TikTok, will have all the footage for us to see on her TikTok. Okay. I don't even follow the girl, but they keep intruding on my timeline and, forcing her to be in my algorithm. I'm like, I'm not asking to see her golf, be at the White House, hang out with her girlfriends, but she just keeps popping in my timeline. But now I want her to be there because I want the tea to see if this concert and this lineup really happened. But like I said, we're talking about the contributions of hip hop in this bigger conversation of 250 years. And so July 4th marks the 30th anniversary of Tupac's final live performance at the House of Blues. And our next guest produced that concert, and he's here to give us an account of that unforgettable night. He's James Farr, host of Conversations Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Niel and Jill. How are you?
Good. You guys kind of know each other. You're from the same home team, right?
Yeah, we've seen each other a few times. No, absolutely. I woke up and I'm listening in the background, and I said, "Wait a minute, why am I hearing Jill?" And I'm like, "Am I not awake yet?" And then I get the screen up. I said, "Wow, it's a KBLA get down the day before the country." I guess goes down or goes up. I don't know what's happening tomorrow. I don't know, but I didn't see that.
Hilarious. But for those of you who don't know, you guys can check out KBLA. It's Black Talk Radio owned by Tavis Smiley. And of course, I do Jill Munroe's show on Tuesdays with her. She's on Monday through Thursday. And then James Farr, you're on what days?
I'm on Saturdays, 10 a.m. live with the replay on Sunday.
Okay. And tell us before we get into this conversation a little bit about your show.
Sure. Conversation Live Altadena Rises was started or launched after the January 2025 Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Tavis, Mr. Smiley, had a vision that we self-assigned ourselves to document, memorialize, and hold space for community, our Black brothers and sisters in Altadena. I live half a mile from where the fire started. I evacuated immediately after the fire started and find myself here 18 months later, weekly producing the show of record chronicling what happened for the nation.
Once again, us telling our own stories and our own truth. I love it. And James is a part of our journalism cohort. And so you're going to be seeing a lot of stories from him about Altadena and other things on Black Press Live USA starting, I think, next week or a week after next, something like that. Excited about that. But nonetheless, we're talking about 250 years and some of the contributions of hip hop. And so tomorrow is the 30th anniversary from that House of Blues concert that from time to time on our timeline, there it is. We get these clips turned up. Last concert. How did you become the producer of this show, James?
It was a part of a series that we were producing at the House of Blues that was this hybrid culture of like sports and entertainment. And this is summer or coming into summer of '96. Death Row and was probably one of the biggest labels out at that time and had the biggest lineup out. But the biggest challenge that many rap acts were facing at that time was the ability to get insurance to play in venues. So contemporarily, we see, our favorite rappers now, some of you guys have just been talking about doing stadium and arena tours. There was a time in hip hop where it was a little volatile, right? It was a little dangerous. And so you had venues across the country that wouldn't insure these performances, and sometimes for good reasons. And so the kind of underneath this thought was, if this particular lineup could play at such an inclusive venue like the House of Blues, perhaps it would open up opportunity for the act to play in other venues across the nation. But as we later learned 3 months later after this event, this last live concert, Tupac would be murdered. Well, he would be certainly shot on September 7th, and then 6 days later, he passed away.
Jill?
Well, obviously, Tupac is someone that at just 25 years old left an imprint on not just the hip hop universe, but his presence, his words, his mannerisms, what he stood for has continued to stand. Will it be it's the 30th anniversary this year of his death? Yeah. And his concert. So, I mean, the fact that we are still talking about him, that you can hear his music daily, that he has classic videos. Shout out to I Get Around. I'm in that video. So, but it's just an amazing thing. I wish I could have attended that concert. We've seen clips from it over time. The energy was electric. I remember what the city was like when that was coming up and it was about to happen. Everybody was trying to get tickets. You couldn't. It was packed to the rafters. That's when House of Blues was like the venue. So it was on that hill, lined up down the block to get in there, no parking. I just know that it was an incredible performance. And the fact that he is still relevant, his messages, his words today shows, to your point, 250 years of America. And these are some of the
most iconic ones
that are still resonating.
Now, this concert almost didn't happen. So how close did this historic concert actually come to never happening at all? Because, of course, behind the scenes, like you mentioned about the insurance and, the concern. So tell us a little bit about what was happening on the back end to even get this concert to the stage.
Absolutely. It was on, it was off, and then it was on. And there were many different iterations of how we were trying to stand up this event. It even got to a point, and I wrote about this in a piece 5 years ago, remembering the 25th anniversary. And but it came to a point to where there was an event outside, totally nothing to do with the House of Blues, totally nothing to do with anything other than the tragedy of what it was. So House of Blues had a picnic. 3 of their staff members died in an accident on PCH, right? This has nothing to do with Tupac, right? So you had an emotionally charged staff who had just left an event and lost 3 of their co-workers at that time. I think that kind of became the reason why they said that they did not want to work the concert. So you eventually had a staff work stoppage that they went to management and said they would not work this concert. We will not staff this. And I'm talking about from security to bussers to servers, bartenders on up. Isaac Tigert, the owner of the House of Blues, like I said, he had this inclusive spirit about music that any and every were welcome on his stages across, at that time, I think there were maybe 6 venues across the country. And so I remember being in that meeting in his office on Sunset and in that war room with, a handful of people. And he looked management straight in the eye. Fire them is what he said. Hire temporary workers. But what you won't do is inhibit this event to go forward. So we took some other measures like putting the tickets on sale only at the venue. We adjusted the start time for the concert. It started at, if memory serves me correctly, around 2:00 in the afternoon. There was all sorts of pressure from police and public safety. And we had to go through extra measures to kind of shut down streets and all of that. But I mean, that
is it true? Is it true that you couldn't put Tupac's name or you didn't put Tupac's name on the ticket?
Boy, you did a little bit of research. Yes, absolutely. So I've heard so many different things about what this show wasn't, and I've seen flyers. The video that came out afterwards was just that. It came out some years after the concert and his death. But as a means of everyone knew that if Snoop was there, if Dog Pound was there, if Casey and JoJo were there, if Danny Boy was there, if the whole Death Row lineup and everybody else and their mama who wanted to be there was there, that if Tupac was in the building, Tupac was going to take the stage. But we knew from the onset that he was the headliner, and that's what it was going to be.
Mm-hmm. All right. So of course we're talking about 30 years since that performance. How do you think that specific night at the House of Blues helped legitimize hip hop to corporate America and permanently shift the culture?
Oh man, that's such a good question, Neil. And I mean, I certainly think it added to where we are right now, but we were at a very volatile time. So what was happening in music, and Jill may can add to some of the. You had a tour that was started called Smoke and Grooves, which came out of House of Blues, and so you started to see this fusion. The only rap acts that were playing were kind of like a Fugees, a Cypress Hill, kind of a hip hop alternative lineup. Kind of became the precursor for what we see now of these, in Astro World or many of the other kind of younger festivals that have popped up with, tens of thousands of people. So I don't know that the death and violence around hip hop was good for the business at that time. In April the next year, right in Los Angeles, Biggie Smalls would be killed. It was a different time. For me, I didn't think much about the show other than it was a show. I was headed to Atlanta in the summer to do things at the Olympics. Fairness, Tupac was a rapper to me at that time, right? He's 25, I'm 22. Everybody that was involved with that show was under 30. So there's a lot of ego, and I don't care if you
That's you?
That's me in my office. Me and my mom. Yeah, that's me at 22. I know, good looking guy. I know. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, something.
But it was a time then that we were all so young. Everybody.
That was the best time of just anything and of any era. Like Jill has her memories of, she says she was in I Get Around video. I remember when Tupac was trying to be in with the Dog Pound at Mental Mondays, with Jason and Damu, and him trying to be down, and they was like no, but then the next week, and Diddy was walking up the steps inviting us to go to Vertigo's to see his new artist, Biggie Smalls, Glam Slam, and Tupac just low-key sitting in the building, and Biggie's debuting Party and Bullshit. I mean, that was the time.
It was.
Was at a high. Jill, chime in on this.
So I was at that party with Puffy when he introduced Biggie at Glam Slam. I also had my 21st birthday at Glam Slam, which Tupac performed at. It just, everything was bustling. I started working in hip hop during that time period. So it helped shape me as far as professionally. And it just, it was young people figuring it out, taking whatever was available to them and creating magic. We didn't know.
Right. You just didn't know. Like Puffy was so accessible.
Right.
was like, you know, we're I'm a songwriter, she's a singer, here's my number, I'm staying there, whoop-de-whoop, call, okay, meet us at Glam Slam. You know, it was just that. And then you had Snoop walking around upstairs. I remember the arena. I mean, it was just such a time for hip hop. And when you think about hip hop today, it's just, they don't even understand the levels and the times that were had during that time. And we really don't know what happened. I mean, what happened to where we were all in the building one day, and then there was this war between Death Row and Bad Boy, because it wasn't like that at first. I don't think people realized it was not like that at first.
No, that obviously got manufactured, you know, through media and narrative. It became good for people in ivory towers and disconnected from community and real consequences to commoditize that. And you know, the grace I think we have to afford, all of us, and certainly them, is, again, everybody is under 30 at that time, and they are charged. And when I say they, I'm speaking of the artists and the label executives. They are charged with a lot of money, right? And that's a lot of responsibility, a lot of maturity. I thank God I've never had that kind of money at 25, because I was bad enough standing on tables with bottles before bottle service was a thing in my 20s. So it was a different time. But you know, as I said, I was headed to Atlanta that summer to produce events at the Olympics, and then I just happened to book this rapper that probably nobody really heard of at that time, named Jay-Z. And so I still remember the conversation with Dame Dash, and you could hear the unsophistication in how their operation was moving compared to where, you know, it has evolved to now into a $1 billion artist brand and all of that. But, you know, that was just a different time where, you know, if I hear Jill say this on air all the time, if you know, you know. I mean, if you were in it, you were in it, right? And it seems so much more connected in a way that today we're connected digitally, but you know, then it was love.
Different time. And you had those different conferences like Jack the Rapper and the Urban Network that would bring you all together to have conversation, socialization, parties. I mean, like you said, it was just a different time, and the infrastructure was set up different. You had record pools, you had trade magazines like BRE and the Urban Network that people looked for every week. Like those were the Bibles to know what was happening. You talk to the record pool to make sure that the records were spent. I mean, it was just a totally different system that no longer exists. But I think that's what built community during that time. When you think of hip hop, you know, that was a community, and that was how you stay connected on a local level and on a national level. Do you think, do you have the full concert? Do you plan this House of Blues, are you guys talking about putting that concert out?
No, it's that video, or that was released on a DVD, I believe, through Koch back in 2001, maybe. Not knowing obviously what was the fate that was awaiting Tupac, right? You know, if there is kind of a revisit, I wish we had retained, because our deal in imprint and House of Blues was totally different. Than I didn't work for corporate. It was it would be an imprint, the equivalent of an imprint deal in the music industry. So I worked for a subsidiary. But anyway, we licensed that back to them. They paid us a handsome fee. But again, that transaction happened even before Tupac had passed or was killed. So I own nothing of that. House of Blues owns nothing of that. It is totally, I'm not sure who owns it, right? But I think the experience certainly belongs to the 1,000 or so people who were in the building that night. My reason why I decided to reflect on it 5 years ago After, saying no a few times to different documentaries and things, I didn't want nothing to do with any of that just wasn't my track anymore. Right. And so it was something that I appreciated being a part of, but it wasn't a part of my contemporary story. It wasn't something I walked around, hey man, I did this or I did that. Or back in the day, that just, it wasn't how I was showing up, in my mid 40s, whatever. But a friend convinced me to write that reflection, not for the culture, but for my kids. And he said, if you write it for your kids, the culture will appreciate it because, you're telling and sharing something. And so that's why I decided to kind of, there's a million stories of what happened. I've heard people talk about it. I've heard artists talk about it. Right. But I thought it could be relatable for, that one person who, like me, I go to events and I wonder how things run, right? Like, how did this actually happen? And so I wanted to ground that experience as a 22-year-old who only had a fax machine. We didn't have emails, and I may have had a Sky pager then. I don't remember. I had a pager, you know what I mean? But the conveniences of technology that afford us to be even in this conversation today, those were tools. None of us had. I mean,
right. Well, we want to thank you for pulling up and sharing this story. And we'll continue to remember Tupac 30 years later. And it's good that you bring that up in context of us celebrating our country. Hip hop has played a lot in that. And one of the things that before we let you go, the takeaway that you just said is that everybody in that concert was in the moment. There were no cell phones up trying to record it and capturing it. Everybody was just one body, one mind, grooving to Death Row. Thank you for sharing that memory with us. Look at that.
Absolutely. Thank you both for having me.
For sure. 100. All right. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
And wait a minute. Before we leave that, I'm getting ready to embarrass Jill a little bit, but I got to do it. Let's see her cameo. You see that?
There I am right there. Red and white striped shirt right there.
Yeah.
Right there. Some other places. That's my best friend with the short hair, Keisha. Shout out to her.
I remember Keisha. I remember her at Mental Monday.
Yeah, we were the Honey Dips. We used to promote for Damu. So that was my first club promoting experience. So that's a little bit of that.
I remember Keisha. So since we're talking about culture, let's talk about culture's biggest night. And the numbers are in for the 2026 BET Awards. So the Jesse Collins Entertainment production just scored some high numbers in ratings. The highest number since 2019, this BET Awards. And we're talking about the #1 cable telecast of the day, the #1 social program across all TV, the top trending topic on X for 12 consecutive hours in the US, and for 7 hours worldwide. So it did what it was supposed to do. But the question is, Jill, I want to know, did the massive success of the BET Awards prove that award shows are back? Or was it because of the Drewski factors and the viral social media moments? Which one do you think it is?
Social media is always the driving factor for many things at this point in time. It is our first screen, where the TV used to be the first screen, the first screen. So I think that off top helps. But I think the involvement of Drewski's native land is digital, so to speak. So getting someone that is Gen Z, that has the attention, and also this year brought back, we saw some of our legends actually step back into the building. There's always the conversation of our biggest and brightest showing up for our award ceremonies. And in this instance, They did. You had Janet Jackson there, the tribute to Lauryn Hill that had many, classic individuals. I don't know about that D'Angelo tribute, but shout out to them. And there were some moments where it felt a little disjointed, but I think the fact that they made an effort to bring Drewski in, who, his videos do millions and millions of views within hours of him putting it up. So I think that was a smart move.
Yeah, a lot of people were interested to see if his skits translated into good hosting, and it seems like he met the mark on all levels. Even that viral moment with him and Keke Palmer, that was huge.
That was an amazing scripted moment, playing off of both their energy. I mean, I think Keke would be a great host for next year, but I think it worked. It worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although what I did hear a lot, though, they moved the pre-show completely to YouTube. There wasn't a lot of information out on that, so a lot of people missed it. And then the interesting thing is, we know BET Plus as a streaming service no longer exists. It's been folded into Paramount.
Correct.
But they did not stream the awards on Paramount Plus, which, some people were like, well, wait, how am I supposed to watch this? And so a lot of people had some issues finding it. But
but they streamed it on like 5 other Paramount owned channels. I know I saw Nickelodeon, I saw
VH1. But if you don't have cable, it doesn't matter if it's on Nickelodeon. And they've been doing that for years. VH1, like streaming it across the Viacom channels. But if you're only a streamer and you only have these platforms, then you might have had a hard time figuring that out.
Right. Or you just watch the clips on social media. And so let's continue to talk about the culture. There's a new study about pop songs overall have become more immoral and meaner. Okay, that's what they're saying. Here's CBS Morning with the scoop. Take a look at this. Story 4. And basically, while we get the clip, the study.
Scientific reports analyzed the lyrics of hundreds of thousands of English language songs covering the last 6 decades. They found lyrics relating to harm, cheating, and rule breaking have climbed sharply, while themes on like care, purity, and loyalty have fallen, sadly. For example, songs like Can't Help Falling in Love, falling in love with you, and What a Wonderful World. They idealize lifelong love, but recent pop hits often emphasize hookups or emotional nonchalance with songs like Cardi B's WAP or Miley Cyrus's Flowers. I mean, I was looking at a bunch of these in the 1960s up until the 1980s. Hits often address society as a whole, what's going on, Marvin Gaye, John Lennon's Imagine, We Are the World. Modern hits frequently focus on personal experience, like Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License or Anti-Hero by Taylor Swift or Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. There's a whole list of songs that you can go and compare and see how lyrics have changed over the years.
I feel like I've noticed that a lot of the hits that we praise today are about heartbreak.
Yeah.
Being disappointed by a lover. And I know that this isn't new, but I feel like artists are leaning on that more often.
They are. Look, going back earlier generations, Stand By Me, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Lean on Me, You've Got a Friend. Today, it's Before He Cheats, Good for You, Kill Bill, right?
Do you think that's just because we're talking about these things more openly and publicly? Because, cheating and being brokenhearted isn't new.
I think that's it.
That's a tale as old as time.
I think it's also lucrative. Like artists know, like when you pull at somebody's heartstrings and they're invested in your heartbreak, they're gonna listen to you. They're gonna stream you.
Look, there have been songs about heartbreak forever. Crazy, Patsy Cline, and I'm So Alone So I Could Cry, Hank Williams, but it seems like it's more prevalent now. A new study suggests.
I mean, songs are meaner. Heartbreak. What do you think? Do you think there's any truth to that, Jill?
I think that, as we have evolved over the last 50 or 60 years, so what that means that he's going back to the 60s, or that study did, you have to think that our communication resources have opened up. So, it was just radio initially, then it was radio and TV, then we got cable and music television. And so I think that there's more outlets. The thing is, too, what type of music? Like, we know that pop, the definition has expanded over this time. You know, so I also think it's obviously a reflection of society and the way that it is moved forth. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah. I mean,
I think
yeah,
if you look for love, you'll find it. It's there
right.
in the music
I
too.
think, but I do think that the art of songwriting has dwindled in today's time, and even the structure of the song. Like, I love a good bridge. You don't find bridges anymore, and songs are much shorter than they used to be back in the day. You know, you get a 5-6 minute song now. A song is maybe 2 minutes and 50. They don't have no bridge.
I think we've gone back and forth with that, like with the lanes too, because if you think about it, when we still had like 45s and stuff like that, songs were either longer with less on an albums. There could be a 6-song album, or the songs were shorter because there's limited vinyl space. I do think, to your point, the craft of songwriting has diminished, but I think also if you look at our education system, if you look at where, you know, English classes and structure, they've taken music out of schools. I think all of that plays a role in the changing landscape as far as music, because they're not being taught instruments and music, you know.
And the art of songwriting. I mean, like, we could just take artists like Luther Vandross and think of his catalog. Just the art of storytelling, I do agree, I think is lost with this new era of songwriting. I love the way I love a good bridge. I mean, and the fact that they are no longer in songs, it's like they're missing out and they don't even realize it. There's just an art and a technique to songwriting that I think, like you said, has dwindled and gotten lost. And you know, when we hear songs today, like what the story we're about to talk about, which is not a R&B song, it's a hip hop song, but we have lost some of the like, if I think about, he was talking about you know, say I'm thinking about Aretha Franklin, Say a Little Prayer. You know what I mean? But also back in the day, you had songs like Woman to Woman. You know what I mean? So you did have all of the different layers of songs available to you. You know, Orange Juice Jones, I Saw You Walking in the Rain.
Me
You
and
know
Mrs. Jones,
Okay.
right? Yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
and that's why I said, like, I think, you know, I get it, but it's also what songs were they looking at on the list? You know, if we look back as 50 years of R&B or whatever, there's still love songs out there, but there's another music that has sort of stepped into the mainstream, the most popular position. If you were to go back to disco songs, you know, are there songs about the dance floor anymore? Not really. You know, so I think part of it is just the times that we are in as well. But
100%, because you could even talk about gospel music too, and the changing of it, like where it used to be the big choirs. You know, now we're down to praise and worship teams. You know, you talk about, you know, the artists of yesterday, and then you have artists today who are making more contemporary music. And so, I mean, just the industry is changing, but it's just changing and we have to adapt to the times. But I do think that there is space to bring back that old school feel. And like when you listen to Chris Brown's new album, it's like he tapped into that old school feel. So it's not like
artists that have had like the love thing. You just probably gotta look a little bit more. There are like 8 million songs released today. Can't tell me that there's no love in that mix. It's just probably
so let's talk about the biggest cultural debate this week. And I'm talking about Young Miami and India Irie. So Young Miami, of course, she has the undisputed summer song. Okay, talking about Spin That. And India Irie, you know, after the BET Awards, she took to social media saying that the song is a crystal clear sign of a bigger problem and a rude awakening that not everybody wants to be free. Now, many thought that India Irie was calling for a boycott, but then she took to social media again, clarifying she isn't calling for a boycott, but she's deeply concerned about the frequency and influence it has on the youth. So the question is, does India.Arie have a point? Or can a song just be a song and we just, be free for the summer? What are your thoughts about all this, Jill?
I mean, she does have a point, but at the same time, people need an outlet. It has a catchy hook, which is the hallmark of a good song. And sometimes, again, I completely understand, but I also think, we were rocking out to Little Kim, Millie Jackson, all of those things. I have never once went and ran a play to get to the bag or things of that nature. Although I've been listening to this type of music, I saw someone else, I think it might have been, I think her name is Dominique Morgan. She's a commentator on social media, point out that we've also grown up with a lot of toxic love stories. You just talked about woman to woman. Hello, Barbara. This is Shirley. That is not good for my mental health either. That's not activity that we need to be encouraging. So, I mean, I feel like I get her point, but sometimes relax.
I mean, right, relax. I mean, when I first heard the song, I liked it. I'm like,
it has a catchy hook, a nice
catchy hook. The little content creator made the dance. Everybody's doing the dance, and it's just it's a right there. You go. It's just one of those songs. But India.Arie does have a point. I think it goes to us talking about the songs. There is something happening in music that drives her point, but I don't think that Young Miami is the poster child for that commentary. It's just the song of the summer. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Especially considering these past 2 years, kind of the trajectory and path that Young Miami has been on. You think about what happened with the City Girl. She was counted out then when JT took her little vacation, courtesy of the state. She held it down. Then, a lot of people counted her out because of her relationship with Diddy. Nikki Gilbert, actually formerly of Brownstone, is calling for a boycott, but that seems kind of hypocritical when you think about the fact that Nikki spent how many years alleging that the series P-Valley was ripped from a play that she produced. And it's like, oh, but it was okay for you to write this play about strippers and strip clubs. So I think we should pick our battles sometimes. And a song by Young Miami, who, depending upon how you feel or your thoughts are, whatever, the ride and the reputation hit that she took from her relationship choice, it's nice to see her come back because a lot of people counted her out. And
and I think there's space for both. I think there's space for our neo soul India.Aries, and there's space for that anthem for the summer, which congratulations to Young Miami. It's hers. Everybody's singing it, even professors quietly in their offices. Okay, they're singing it too. We're all singing it. All right. And last but not least, I definitely wanted to get your take on this because, we're in LA. This conversation about LeBron James is not letting up. Most people are now anticipating, where will he go? Will he go to the Golden State Warriors? Will he go back to Cleveland? Or is he going to go to the Miami Heat? But here in LA, it's like either you're happy that he left or you're like, I don't want to be stuck with these 5 white boys, because that's the meme that's going around now. Okay.
They are definitely the Snowtime Lakers right now. Not Showtime, but Snowtime. I think, LeBron's time with the Lakers was complicated. The Lakers are obviously one of the glamour franchises of the league. He spent 8 years here. It's the longest place that he's ever been with his career. I think the Lakers, they have new ownership. They were trying to move on and set themselves up for the future. And though LeBron is still great, he will be 42 years old once the next season gets underway. And it was a moment where they had to move past. I do think that he will end up in the Bay. One,
I do too.
LeBron likes LA.
Mm-hmm.
So
And he
does
said
his
he's
wife,
not leaving.
and
He
so
said
does
he's-
his daughter. So a little 45-minute flight up the coast really quick. Chris Paul did it. We've seen lots of players do that so that they could keep their home base here. I'm sure his daughter, she's playing volleyball, doesn't want to be out the house. We know that he has his massive Beverly Hills mansion that he is having built in addition to the one in Brentwood that he already has. So, you know, people felt like it was Kobe or LeBron. So a lot of Lakers fans had a weird relationship with LeBron for the time that he was here. I feel like he brought us a title in 2020.
Which some people say is not a real title because it was in the bubble.
And they said the same thing about the Spurs versus the Knicks in '99 when Phil Jackson put that asterisk on it. But guess what? It still meant Lakers were, well, I think the Celtics won another title after we won that one. But, you know, we have the most titles, well, the Celtics do now, in NBA history. We're like, don't be mad. The bubble title counted. The players said that that was one of the hardest bits of competition they endured. So far be it from us to tell the players what their paths look like. So it's there. It's on the books.
Right. I think for LeBron, with even like the players, like the old school players, like the Charles Brockleys and the play, traditionally you get with a team and you stay with them and you're loyal to them. You know, you see that with Magic Johnson. You saw that with Michael Jordan. You see that with Kobe Bryant. LeBron understood his brand during his career, to me, in the NBA. And he wasn't loyal to a team. He was loyal to his goals. I want a ring. I'm not going to get that here. So I'm going to go where I can get a ring. That is not the traditional mindset of a player. The traditional mindset of a player is you get with a team, you stay there, and you build your legacy. LeBron said, I'm going to build my legacy based upon the way I choose. And I think that a lot of basketball players, especially the older ones, found that to be problematic. And so I think that's where, you know, this whole controversy about LeBron and the NBA and his legacy, that's where that conversation comes from.
The ring thing, but I'm going to push back a little bit. I think the way that free agency was set up, and when Kevin Garnett in, I think it was 95 or 96, signed at the time, the biggest deal in the NBA for 121 million, which sounds like nothing at this time period. I think that changed the trajectory of free agency and how it moved and how players became disposable. Because what has also happened over the past 25 years or so, the middle class and the veterans exception have all been sort of changed up to where that mid-level veteran has been taken out of the equation. So it has made more sense to move around. You think about really when the big three, and I'm talking about the first big three in Boston, came together, player movement has sort of been very different in the last 20 years. LeBron is definitely a part of that, but I think that free agency and how the league set itself up and the moving of the mid-level exemption kind of helped with that as well.
100%. But he definitely has, during his career, been a game changer.
Yes.
How you look at your brand, how you capitalize on it, and that your brand is bigger than the NBA. It's bigger than just being a player. And so we'll see where he lands. I think if he does decide to go to the Warriors, that's the last old school. I mean, that's a team of older players, Steph Curry, AD, Draymond, you know, and so the uncles will be playing against all of these new young boys. And I think that will bring, to me, I feel like that'll bring some excitement to the game.
I don't think it really matters. I think that, I mean, Washington said they're not going to give up Anthony Davis, but I think it'll be a nice way to roll out. You know, Draymond has been trying to get into a position to play with LeBron for forever. I think it's just like him also trying to get one more ring so he can be equal to Jordan. And also he goes to the tech, you know, Silicon Valley up there because it's all about continuing the money and expanding those things. So, but
right.
No,
we're excited. And once again, LeBron, the power is in his hand because now all eyes are on him to see what his decision will be. And so we look, there he is. So we'll continue to monitor this story and talk about it. But before we get out of here, let's do some Black facts. We're going to stay in the culture of music as we talk about 250 years. So on today in 1995, R&B icon D'Angelo released his highly influential debut album, Brown Sugar. The record pioneered the modern neo-soul movement, blending vintage soul, jazz, and funk. What was your favorite song off of this album?
I mean, listen, the whole album. I loved Lady. I loved Cruising.
I love All Right. Mine was All Right.
Yeah. Like start to finish, it was an amazing album. I mean, I've shared that I had the opportunity to work with D'Angelo on his second album, Voodoo. That kicked off a whole new era in music. We were talking about the changes in the 90s and sort of the things. This young guy with the cornrows sitting at the organ, that was new for 90s,
Right,
you know.
right.
So
And we were talking about song lyrics like Lady. That song right there, you know, every female wanted her man to feel that way about her. Okay. And that also ushered in Erykah Badu. And that India Iries, you know, it started with D'Angelo. And so he's definitely missed, but thank God that he left us some treasures in the forms of songs, beautiful songs, lyrics, beats, music, live instruments, all of it. And then we're going to stay in 1995. It's a big weekend in New Orleans. But today marks the inaugural Essence Festival of Culture. Concluded its historical 3-day launch at the Louisiana Superdome, honoring Essence Magazine's 25th anniversary. It drew over 140,000 attendees with performances by Aretha Franklin, B.B. King, Luther Vandross, and Mary J. Blige. I was there. Susan Taylor was in charge at that time, and I actually was able to interview Mary J. Blige at Club Whispers. So anybody know about New Orleans back in the day, Club Whispers was the place to be. Okay. And I interviewed Mary J. Blige on the dance floor, and I'm so glad she didn't brush me off like she used to do a lot of other people, because I talked to her about her hairstyles and she enjoyed that conversation.
yeah, because Miss Mary, we know Miss Mary wasn't always the nicest. You know, it's an important part of the culture. It brings people together. It is, you know, experiencing a rough time as it changes and tries to adapt to the new environment. I have actually only been once, and that was in 2019.
That was the only time I went to the first one. That was it.
Really? Yeah. I enjoyed myself immensely when I went in 2019. I think it sounds like a good lineup this year. They're honoring Missy Elliott, Brandy, Mona Scott Young. You saw Cardi B there. She's going to be performing. So I think it'll be a good time. Babyface, Leon Thomas. Seems like a good night to shows to me.
Yeah, I'm going to live through it on TikTok and social media. Definitely.
I think I'm allowed to say this. I think they're going to be streaming it on Prime.
Right. I watched so the past few years I've watched it. It's either on Hulu or Prime. It's either one of them.
It's going to be on Prime. I think I got a press release yesterday.
Okay, Prime.
They were announcing it's going to be on Prime streaming.
Perfect. Okay, because the prior years they had it on Hulu. I remember. So it's a good way to spend your 4th of July weekend live streaming the concerts. And you know, you can make your own Essence Fest in your living room, and that's probably what I'm going to be doing this weekend. Okay.
Amen. Amen to that.
All right, Jill. So thanks for always waking up and having these cultural conversations. We truly appreciate you. Looking forward to joining you back on next Tuesday. Your show on KBLA comes on at what times?
6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can catch us live on KBLA Talk 1580 or on KBLA Talk 1580's YouTube.
All right, folks, enjoy your holiday. And we'll be back on Monday with more news, views, headlines, and culture. And for the latest in Black news, I almost forgot, y'all, head on over to Black Press USA. I'm sure we're going to be having some 250 stories over there for you. Peace and love, y'all.